one and all present for this webinar today. It is indeed a privilege and a very wonderful opportunity that has been given to me by IHM Taramani. I personally extend my sincere thanks to Ms. Parimala and to Dr. Eugene for giving me this opportunity. I hope you all enjoy this session. Before I begin with the session, I would like to place a small request to all of you. Kindly mute your audio as well as video. Only if you mute your audio and video, the clarity and the relay of the program will be good. So this is a kind request. I can see Praveen Sharma still with the video on, and then there's somebody called 6,113 who still got the video on. So please kindly mute your video as well. So, as part of this Ek Bharat Shrestha Bharat, we have IHM Taramani organizing this webinar, Interconnecting Kashmir and Tamil Nadu. So, I welcome all of you to join me in the cultural journey, traveling and interconnecting Kashmir and Tamil Nadu. Eugene sir, you have to permit me to share my screen. You have disabled it. Dr. Eugene, you have to permit me to share my screen.
I just did it, ma'am. I have.
Yeah, got it.
Yes.
Thank you. So I am Dr. Cynthia Jude, Assistant Professor from the Department of History and Tourism, Stella Maris College. So let us join our cultural journey. Kashmir is a country which is in the topmost part of India, and you have Tamil Nadu, which is in the bottom of India. So how are both interconnected? What kind of cultural aspects are linking these two is what we are going to look today in this webinar. The states of Kashmir and Tamil Nadu are located in the top and bottom of India. It is the alpha and the omega of the huge nation that is India. India will not be a complete nation if we do not have Kashmir or Tamil Nadu. So it is essential that both the states play their significant role in completing the nation India. We have culture, which is a very, very important aspect that includes social issues and the customs that surround the human society. You have the aspects of knowledge, belief, arts, law, customs and capabilities, even the habits of individuals and groups that contribute to culture. The nation India as a whole, if you see, is comprised of several states and union territories. The country is one which is having a very rich and very rich and ancient culture and heritage. Each state in the country has a unique culture and tradition. In spite of the unique culture of each and every state, the nation stands together as a singular body. The culture of Kashmir is what we are going to look into first. So the Kashmiri culture is actually the combination of several customs of northern India, northern Pakistan, and the Chinese territory of Aksai Chin. In spite of the state having a significant culture, you have the state itself is an embellishment of the combination of several other cultures. In Kashmir, there are people who follow several religions such as Hinduism, Sikhism, Islam, Buddhism, and Christianity. The entire population is a large ethno-linguistic group. The languages that are spoken there, the Kashmiri and the Hindi languages that is spoken, especially in Kashmir, are highly influenced by the Sanskrit language. Apart from that, you also have the Central Asian and the Persian culture, which is a great source of inspiration and influence to the people of Kashmir. When you talk about Kashmir or think about Kashmir, you remember the scenic beauty of Kashmir along with the beautiful dance, music, cuisine, the carpet weaving, the Koshu Sufiana, which are all specific identities of Kashmir. And of course, the traditional boat houses on the Dal Lake is what you think of the minute you think about Kashmir. The cuisine of Kashmir has a really beautiful combination. You have rice, wheat, lentils, vegetables, and fruits, including nuts, which are combined in the food spread of the Kashmiri cuisine. Both the vegetarian and non-vegetarian food is extremely colorful, delicious, and it is a treat to the taste buds of anybody who tastes it. You have the vegetarian dishes which include the ladyar saman, the zarda, which is a sweet rice. Then you have the shri pulao. The shri pulao is a very rich food preparation which includes the usage of fruits and nuts, ghee, and basmati rice. So it is an extremely delicious and tasty food item. Then you have this nadir. The nadir is nothing but a dish prepared using lotus stem. You have the hak. The hak is something like a porridge, like a soup, which is made and served to guests. Then you have the rajma. The rajma that is available here in Kashmir is a really wholesome rajma, not like the ones which we get here south of India. And it is prepared with special techniques and intricacies which make it a really tasty dish. In the non-vegetarian dishes, you have dishes like the Kashmiri kebab, the Rogan Josh, the pasanda, and they have lots of meat preparations that they do. And they also have this keema methi or keema ki methi, you call it. They had had combined the combination of methi and keema together, which is an unusual one. We don't do that in Tamil Nadu, but otherwise, this dish is a speciality of Kashmir. You also have these dessert items which are really a treat to your taste buds. You have the sevian, which is topped with rose petals, saffron, and nuts. You have the firni and you have the barfi. The barfi is a combination of several fruits and nuts. It's a very filling dessert that you can have. Then, as I told you, you have the hak or the karam saag, which is a soup, and you have the kava and the hot sheer tea. These three items which I mentioned just now are mostly served to the guests who visit the Kashmiri homes. You know that Kashmir is a hill station, and whenever people come, you have, similar to the people of Tamil Nadu, the Kashmiri people are very, very hospitable. These dishes, which include the hak, the kava, and the hot sheer tea, are exclusively prepared for the guests and served to them in order to warm themselves when they come out, when they come from outside to the Kashmiri homes. The costume of Kashmir is what we are going to look into next. The costume of Kashmir is a very colorful one. Which they wear with loose salwar kameez. And salwar kameez, I think, is something which we people in Tamil Nadu have adopted and we have followed, and it is kind of a similarity. The men in Kashmir, they wear kurtas and pajamas with skull caps. They also wear an overcoat called the peran, and like how we have these Islamic women covering their heads and shoulders, we have the Kashmiri women also covering their heads and shoulders as a identity or a representation of respect and reverence to the other men and elders around. So this Kashmiri costume itself is a true indication of the culture and the rich lifestyle followed by the people of Kashmir. Now I think we will move on to the important festivals that are being celebrated in Kashmir. Kashmir, if you see, it is a state where you have festivals that are celebrated throughout the year. You have the Baisakhi festival, which is the harvest festival. This harvest festival is similar to that of our Pongal that we celebrate in Tamil Nadu, which is yet another harvest festival. They also have this Lohri, which is a Punjabi folk dance festival. Then you have Eid ul Fitr, which is nothing but Ramzan. They celebrate this Hemis festival, which is a festival which is celebrated to commemorate the success of good over evil. And this festival is celebrated every year with a large gathering of people. And in this festival, there are dancers who perform by wearing masks. So the mask dance is a very popular one in the Hemis festival. And then you have this Tulip festival, which is a festival which is celebrated in the month of April and May. Just like how we have the Ooty Flower Show and Flower Festival in April and May, this festival is celebrated in Kashmir. Then you have this Dimoshe festival, which is a New Year's festival that is celebrated. You have the Shikara festival, which is the boat race festival that is celebrated on the Dal Lake every year. Then you have the Gurez festival, which is usually celebrated in the Gurez Valley. So this Gurez Valley is a beautiful valley where they celebrate by dancing and coming together and having a mela and thanking the gods for the monsoon and the spring. This is a monsoon and spring festival, the Gurez festival. Then you have the Sindhu Darshan, which is nothing but a festival organized in the banks of the river Indus or Sindhu, and people gather around there and they view the Indus and thank the river for its fertility and for the purposes that the people are using the river for. So you also have certain fairs that are largely celebrated in the Kashmiri state. You have the Bahu Mela. The Bahu Mela is a really large Hindu festival that is celebrated in one of the forts called the Bahu Fort in Jammu. And you have the Jiri Mela. The Jiri Mela is actually celebrated in a village called Jiri, and this village every year they have this celebration taking place in autumn, that is in the later part of October and in the early part of November. They have this Jiri festival to commemorate the martyrdom of a farmer who had actually died fighting against the zamindari system. So this festival is a farmers festival. You also have these other craft melas and small fairs that are organized, and these are the representations of the Kashmiri culture, and they showcase the beauty of Kashmir and the tradition of Kashmir. Now, moving on to the handicrafts of Kashmir. When you say handicrafts of Kashmir, you immediately think about the Pashmina shawl. The Pashmina shawl is a world famous, internationally acclaimed handicraft product from Kashmir. It symbolizes royalty and it has got very beautiful and breathtaking designs and embroidery work. Apart from this, you have the hand knotted carpets, which are very beautiful. The handicrafts of Kashmir also include basketry and different kinds of handmade bamboo baskets and plates and caps and whatnot they can make. They make so many things with the bamboo sticks as part of their basketry. Then you have this paper mache. This paper mache is nothing but these artifacts that are being made using a particular kind of paper pulp, and it is being painted in dark colors, where in contrast golden color is used for intricate decoration. So this is one really beautiful handwork of Kashmir. We also have this walnut wood furniture and silverware that are available here in Kashmir, and all these contribute extensively to the beautiful handwork of the people of Kashmir. Now, moving on to the dance and music of Kashmir, you have dance and music which actually represents, or which actually is an embellishment of the culture of a particular state. So, as I told you, the mask dance is a very popular one, and I told you that that is performed during the Hemis festival. The other major dance forms includes the Chakri dance. The Chakri dance is a folk dance which is usually performed during marriages. Then you have the Ladisha dance, which is also a popular folk dance. Then you have the roof dance. The roof dance is the dance where you can see these ladies holding their hands and dancing. That is a roof dance. And then you have the Dandaras dance, which is usually danced using drums and other percussion instruments, and it actually involves really high skills because you need to play as well as dance. So you also have important music instruments like the sitar, and you have the ghazals and Sufi and choral, which are concerts which are usually conducted during the wedding ceremonies and festivals. So, this is all about the culture of Kashmir. Now, moving on to the culture of Tamil Nadu. Tamil Nadu, as you all know, is a southern state, and it is a very supremely rich state with an ancient culture and heritage. It is one of the oldest civilizations in the world, and the state has been ruled by the Cheras, Cholas, Pandyas, Pallavas, and many other significant rulers. These rulers have contributed extensively to the man-made tourist resources of Tamil Nadu, which are in the forms of monuments, forts, temples, and all that, making Tamil Nadu a very wonderful tourist destination. You can see that in Tamil Nadu, the religion followed here includes Hinduism, Islam, Christianity, and Jainism. And the Hindus contribute four-fifths of the entire population of Tamil Nadu, and their rituals include deity worship, animism, tree worship, star worship, and planet worship. You also have mosques, churches, and Jain temples which are available, and these serve the religious needs of the people of Tamil Nadu. The costume of Tamil Nadu is a very beautiful one. The men wear costumes which comprise of dhotis, shirts, lungis, and angavastras. The usual uh, dress, if you see in these days in the modern scenario, is the casual and formal wear that men usually wear for their work, but the traditional costume of Tamil Nadu is the dhoti, the shirt, and the angavastra. Usually, the angavastra is worn on occasions, but otherwise, ordinary towel is tied around the shoulder or the head. You have the small little boys who wear shorts and shirts, and even when the Prime Minister comes down to Tamil Nadu, he wears a dhoti and a shirt. The costume of the women of Tamil Nadu are saris, half saris, and the pattu pavadais. So the saris are worn by elderly women and young women, and then the little young girls wear half saris, and then the very little girls wear the pattu pavadas. These days, the costume of Tamil Nadu has started to become a traditional wear, and it is worn only during occasions. Otherwise, we just wear salwar kameez, skirts and blouses, or whatever that is comfortable to us. So, this kind of saris are exclusively available in different fabrics and designs. You have the Kanjipuram silk sari, which is the world acclaimed silk from Tamil Nadu. Like how you have the Pashmina shawl, which is the world acclaimed one in Kashmir. Similarly, you have the Kanjipuram sari, which is the world acclaimed silk from Tamil Nadu. Now, moving on to the Tamil Nadu cuisine. The food items in Tamil Nadu are really delicious and tasty. Whenever somebody says that you're from Tamil Nadu, they'll immediately say, "Oh, okay, your place is one famous for idli sambar." So, you talk about Tamil Nadu cuisine, the thing that immediately comes to your mind is idli and sambar. So, you have the breakfast items, which includes idli, sambar, dosa, uttappam, paniyaram, adai, pongal, sweet pongal, kara pongal, sevai, vada sambar, and all these. And mostly the breakfast items and the meals items are prepared using rice, lentils, grains, and vegetables. And rice is a staple food here in Tamil Nadu. You have the vegetarian meals, which include all kinds of vegetables and dishes. It is all prepared with intricacy and detailed work that is involved in preparing them. The non-vegetarian items include different types of seafood, mutton, chicken, and all these. And whenever there is an occasion or a festivity, the meals are usually served on a banana leaf. Eating hot food on a banana leaf is hygienic as well as healthy. And whenever you have special guests or invitees, they use something called as the Thala Vara Ilai, which is a really large banana leaf that is used to serve the food items. So, this is one of the important aspects of Tamil Nadu lunch menu. Now, moving on to the music, which is expression of culture. The Carnatic music is the classical music of Tamil Nadu. It is a very, very complicated one to understand. But you have the Tamil folk music, which is a very fascinating one, and anybody and everybody could follow it. You have this Tamil folk music, which includes Villupattu, Tavil Isai, Nadaswara Isai, Bhajanai, and Parai. This Parai Isai is something which was actually performed only by a particular community in Tamil Nadu. But in the current scenario, this Parai Isai has become a very, very efficient tool for communicating and for conveying a message. So, whenever we want to communicate something to the general public, the villagers, and the common folk, the Para Isai is being followed, and it has always been very effective. Now, moving on to the dance forms of Tamil Nadu, you have Bharatanatyam, which is the classical dance form and the official dance form of Tamil Nadu, that is recognized all over the world, in spite of it being a very, very complicated dance form with the Abhinaya, with the Nrita, with the Natya, and all that. It is very, very complicated dance form, and you all know that people start learning Bharatanatyam right from the time they are very small. So you have all these folk dance forms, which are uh, a variety of them. You have Karagatam. The Karagatam is something where you have a pot that you keep on your head along with a few decorations, and the dance is dancing without dropping the pot. You balance the pot on your head and you dance. So that is the speciality of the Karagatam. Then you have the Kavadi Atam. The Kavadi Atam is more a religious performance than a folk dance performance. The Kavadi Atam is a dance performed by carrying the Kavadi on the shoulders of the person who is actually paying homage to the Tamil god Lord Muruga. So Kavadi is usually offered to the Lord Muruga, and the Kavadi Atam is a dance performance more connected to spirituality. Then you have the Poikal Gudare Atam, which is nothing but a dummy horse dance with dummy legs. So this Poikal Gudare Atam is also a very beautiful performance and a treat to the eyes. You have the Bommalatam, which is the puppetry. Bommalatam is a performance or is a folk art that is popular among small children. They really enjoy it. Then you have the Terukuthu. Terukuthu performances, just like the Hemis festival performances with the mask performers, includes lots of face makeup, mask, and all that. You have the Oyilatam, where men arrange themselves in arrays and dance with kerchiefs in their hand. You have Oyilatam, that's Oyilatam. Then you have Silambatam. Silambatam is again not a particular dance performance, it's a martial art which sometimes used into the dance performances. Then you have Devaratam, which is a localized version of the Bharatanatyam performances. Then you have snake dance. Snake dance is the dance which is performed by moving and dancing like a snake, dressed up also like a snake. Then the Urmiyatam is something where you use the urmi or the small drum for the dance performance. Moving on to the handicrafts of Tamil Nadu. Like how we have bamboo handicrafts in Kashmir, we have palm leaf handicrafts in Tamil Nadu. We also have pottery, we also have wooden toys and dolls that are made. This particular black dolls, if you see, they're called as the Marapachi Bommai. So these wooden dolls are male and female, they come as a couple. So these dolls are usually placed in the golus during the Navaratris. Then you have the bronze items and you have mud items, you have wooden toys, you have bronze items, and then the weaving of different kinds of textiles and materials, which is also a significant handicraft from Tamil Nadu. The architecture of Tamil Nadu, if you see, is a very, very fascinating one. There are several temples, monuments, churches, mosques, and all that. While Kashmir is a natural tourist destination, Tamil Nadu is a tourist destination which has both man made and natural tourist resources. The cultural aspects, as I told you, is unique but diverse, and it's the unity in diversity is what we are popular for. The ethnicity of the people of both Kashmir and Tamil Nadu, their love towards the language, religion, and tradition is very, very similar. The folk music and the dances have similar features, and I told you about the similarity in costume also. The festivities are celebrated extravagantly and they celebrate throughout the year. Both the states have festivals that are celebrated throughout the year. The handicrafts are really beautiful, and the handmade palm items and bamboo items are some common features. As I told you, the Pashmina and the Kanchipuram silk are the best in the world, and the cuisines include rice, which is the staple food from Tamil Nadu. Though it is not the staple food in Kashmir, it is used maximum in Kashmir. Now, talking about the cultural connection, the culture of Kashmir and Tamil Nadu are both ancient, traditional, very rich in heritage. They have a vast history and they have historical languages and different kinds of dialects. The dialects are more in number because of the different communities or tribes of people who are living in the particular place. In Kashmir, I told you they are being influenced by Persia, Arabia, China, as well as India. So here, if you see, Tamil Nadu people are influenced by Kerala, Andhra, Karnataka, and the other nearby states. The culinary connections are actually very, very evident when you look at the food items of Kashmir and Tamil Nadu. The food items have common similarities or common ingredients, which include food, rice, lentils, mutton, chicken, fish, and other seafood. And the preparation of these Tamil Nadu food and Kashmiri food is not as easy as you think. If you take Italian food or American food or any other food item, the Chinese food or anything, you can see that the Chinese fried rice is made in a matter of few minutes and few seconds. And then if you take Italian food, they just arrange everything on trays and just dump it into the ovens. But here in Kashmir and Tamil Nadu, we don't do things like that. We spend time, we dedicate ourselves to prepare delicious food. We grind, we scrape, we uh, use powders, and we use the tamarind sauce, we use the chutneys, everything we do to prepare one particular food item. And each and every woman is an excellent cook and a chef. And if you see, the preparations are all detailed, and it involves lots of dedication and lots of patience to cook a particular food item, both in Kashmir as well as in Tamil Nadu. So if you see that the people are very, very hospitable. As I told you, they have specific items that they offer to the guests when they come home. It happens in Kashmir as well as in Tamil Nadu. I don't think in any of the states this kind of a practice, where they are hospitable to almost all the guests, is happening. So, when you talk about the concepts and ideologies that actually bridge both the states, you have Kashmir and Tamil Nadu, which have both natural tourist attractions and man-made tourist attractions. In Tamil Nadu, if you see, the state has large number of religious and secular man-made tourist attractions, as well as scenic beauty and natural hill stations are available in Kashmir as well as Tamil Nadu. You have the cuisines of Kashmir and Tamil Nadu, which act and serve as motivation for the people to travel. The tradition, the culture, and ethnicity are the common functionalities that can be seen in Kashmir and as well as Tamil Nadu. And one significant and a very appreciable feature that you can see in both the states is that the people are warm, they are generous, and they are friendly and hospitable. So these are the aspects that bridge or interconnect Kashmir and Tamil Nadu. So if at all anybody has questions, I think you can go ahead.
Thank you so much, ma'am. That was a wonderful session.
Thank you, sir.
So much of effort you have put in, ma'am, in synchronizing both the beauties of Kashmir and Tamil Nadu. It's something unheard of. You have beautifully intricated together and you have knitted it so well. Thank you so much, ma'am. It was really nice to hear a lot of information from you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the opportunity. I hope everybody is happy with the presentation and everybody was able to understand what I was trying to say, and to appreciate the cultural link between both states. So, if at all there are any questions, kindly go ahead. You can type the questions in the chat box and I can answer, or you can unmute yourself and you can raise your questions.
I'm sure everyone would have enjoyed it, ma'am, because it's something new that we are hearing. Both the states together, the commonness, the beauty, and everything. So once again, I thank you on behalf of my principal in charge, head of the department, all the faculties and students, ma'am. It was really a pleasure having you here, and you have shared immense knowledge and you have enriched the session, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am. We look forward to having you back for yet another session, ma'am. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much, Dr. Eugene. I also extend my sincere thanks to Ms. Parimala, Principal in Charge and Head of the Department, for having given me this opportunity to enlighten you all and share my thoughts with you people. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.